Hey Rock Hill, Pastor Kyle on Monday morning here with a sermon recap from yesterday. We looked at Romans 15 as Paul laid out his travel and mission plans and saw that there was just so much that we could glean and learn in the here and now by looking at what it looks like to live out the mission of God in life. So the Apostle Paul was writing to this church that he'd never been to before, and he kind of lays out for them what he desires the future to look like. First of all, he grounds his own ministry and says, I have been uniquely called to make Jesus known where he's never been named before, to preach the gospel of Jesus among people groups and in regions that have never heard about Jesus before. And we saw that there is a unique calling to take the gospel in a missionary front lines endeavor to those who have never heard. And that there are over 7,000 of the 16,000 different people groups on planet Earth. Right now there's about 7,000 that do not have an authentic gospel witness in their community, that they don't have a church or we saw a video, 86% of Muslims and Buddhists and Hindus don't even have one relationship with a Christian. And so that's a tragedy and something that God has called and directed us to deal with, to care about, and that there are those from our church that are going to be sent to people groups and places that have no gospel witness right now in order to make Jesus known among the nations. The gospel of the kingdom will be preached to all peoples, and then the end will come, is what Jesus says in Matthew 24. And so we need to take seriously that commission to make the gospel known among all of the people groups of the earth. Paul says the reason that I haven't been able to come to you yet or get on to Spain is that I've been busy preaching the gospel from Jerusalem all the way to Illyricum, which is kind of northern Greece or Macedonia. But he said now my job is done there. There's no more room for me to work. And what he meant was there's churches that have been established in these regions to finish the work of making disciples of Jesus among all of those different regions, to finish the job. And so he doesn't have any room to work anymore because the church is there. And what that gives us a window into is what our unique mission is as the church, is that for our little corner of the globe, our city and our region, that we are to saturate the area and the community with gospel believing, Jesus loving disciples, worshipers of God. And so for us in Duluth, Minnesota, only about 15% of our county goes to church on any given weekend. That is a tragedy, and that is what we have been primarily tasked with doing, is to make sure that we reverse that number, is to make disciples who make disciples, to raise up leaders, and to multiply and plant churches. And so as a church community, we're about making disciples of those who are here, but also training up and sending leaders to those areas that are kind of underserved in our area. And so I love Romans 15 because it causes us to dream dreams globally and locally. The cautionary, though, is that while we're called to dream dreams, sometimes our plans don't turn out the way that we thought that they would. And at the end of Romans 15, we read about Paul's going to Jerusalem to deliver this gift, and we realize that Paul's plan didn't actually turn out the way that he thought it would. He planned to go to Rome as an apostle to preach the gospel, to encourage the church there, and then to move on to Spain. What we see is that he actually does get to Rome, just not in the way that he thought he would. He ends up going to Rome as a prisoner, bound in chains, not receiving the fanfare of an apostle and being sent. As far as we know, he never did get to Spain, but rather died in Rome, defending the faith before Caesar. And so what that teaches us is that while we are to dream dreams and ask God, what would you have of my life? We're to write those dreams in pencil, realizing that sometimes God accomplishes his plans and purposes in ways we never thought that he would. Sometimes those dreams are not of the Lord, but they're of us. And so we are called to dream dreams. We are called to ask, what if? What could God do? But we're also to hold those things loosely. And so my prayer for this week is that you would dream dreams and say, God, what would you do with my life? Do you want me to go? Do you want me to go across the globe? Do you want me to go across the street for the sake of your name? And so I hope that you wrestle deeply with your unique calling in the plan and the purposes of God. Excited for you as you process some of those things in your city group this week to see what comes of it. All right, love you.